Um, it's, it's another month, and that means it's time for another video with Sam. Sam, talk about an awkward intro. But
All good.
well, I mean, it's another month, and a lot has happened in the last month. Not that we've been one of the people that have been watching it, but we still are aware of what's been happening over the last month in the world of WWE. Right, I'm not alone in that you still haven't been watching weekly programming either.
Semi-watching. I work too much. I work too early in the morning, so.
Yeah. Well, I work late at night, and it is the case for SmackDown that basically by the time I get home, SmackDown is over. Because why am I going to watch the last half hour of the show? With Raw, there's still an hour and a half left, and I just choose not to watch it because 9 out of 10 times, if I had to pick, I'd watch SmackDown as opposed to Raw because SmackDown has been better pretty much since Survivor Series. Am I wrong in that?
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Because, I mean, maybe it's just that wrestling. SmackDown has always been the more wrestling brand, and Raw has always been the more entertainment brand, where you would see more segments as opposed to matches. And wrestling was more a focus on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Even going back to the original brand split with the SmackDown 6. Or especially going back to the original brand split with the SmackDown 6. And that's why Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles had been WWE champion, because it's not going to happen on Raw. Well, it could, but I don't know that they would have. Well, I'll ask you: do you think that if the roles were reversed and Daniel was on Raw, do you think he would have been capable of being Universal Champion?
No.
Now, is it because, well, if, say, Roman Reigns was on SmackDown instead, do you think that with more openness in the top of the card, a guy like Daniel or AJ would be able to slide through?
Sorry. Yeah, I think if Roman or Seth, wasn't on Raw, possibly, but.
Yeah. Because that is the question with the Superstar shakeup. Because right now, all I'm hearing is, oh, WWE's going to get rid of the brand split. WWE's going to get rid of the brand split. Until WWE says they're getting rid of the brand split, I don't believe that they are. Because I don't think that they should. Even with SmackDown coming up on moving to Fox, I still don't think that WWE should get rid of the brand split, because I think it's going to hurt them more than help them. And that they'll want to go back to the brand split anyway.
Yeah, I could see it going either way.
Oh, because... Oh, go ahead.
No, I just...
Oh, that's what you were going to say?
I seem to kind of disregard it half the time anyways, so...
Well, but I just think it's WrestleMania. That I think once WrestleMania passes, they'll go back to reestablishing the brand separation.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that.
Because I think that was the problem with the Becky Lynch-Charlotte story, that basically killed the brand split, with Charlotte joining the...
Yeah.
It was Charlotte also appearing on Raw, which I think they could have done it without Charlotte appearing on Raw and only having Becky appear on Raw. Because technically Becky could, because she was the Royal Rumble winner. And that's how it always was, that the Royal Rumble winner could appear on both shows. But I think that, especially with the rumor of SmackDown going to 3 hours when they move to Fox, to maximize advertising revenue, because, that's the only reason why they'll move to 3 hours. Well, I'll also rephrase that. I don't think they're moving to Fox necessarily. I think they're moving to FS1, which is a Fox-branded station, but it's different than them being on Channel 5. because I can't really see them being on the main Fox network. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, just talk a little bit. Speaking of the 3 hours, we'll talk a little bit about that. The 3 hour, the possibility of SmackDown moving to 3 hours too.
I think that would be really stupid. I think Raw at 3 hours is too much. I don't think SmackDown needs to do it.
Now, do you think that if Vince steps back and Triple H and Stephanie are the ones that running the show, that they would try and avoid SmackDown moving to 3 hours, or do you think that if Fox tells them that they want SmackDown at 3 hours, then they'll just cave in and let Fox get what they want? Or
I think they'll do what is money. If that's what Fox wants, so I'm sure that's what they're gonna do.
So you don't think it's necessarily a Vince thing? You think it would more likely be a Fox thing if SmackDown moves to 3 hours?
Yes, definitely.
I do agree. I do agree. Well, now of course, it's the we've put it off long enough talking about WrestleMania, but we're gonna get there and talk about the actual card eventually. But now all I've kept hearing, or all I've heard from a lot of people, oh, well, if you're gonna complain, if you're a writer on the internet, you can't complain about the length of WrestleMania because it gives you more work and it gives your site more views and blah 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 blah. Or content creator, it gives you more content to create. You shouldn't complain. But in my opinion, that raises the amount of hours. It's like, not everybody has 7 hours to set aside to watch a wrestling show. Like,
exactly.
I love wrestling, but I never, ever since they started watching, ever since they started doing the ridiculous times, I've never sat and watched I've watched an entire main show, but not the entire runtime. I never started at the start of the pre-show and worked all the way to the end of the main event. Never. Because it's just too long. I'm not going to sit there for 8 hours. I'd rather just look up the results of the pre-show than sit there and watch the results of the pre-show, or go back and watch the match. Because that's, at least for a week after, people on YouTube who recorded the match would have the match available before WWE, strikes it down with a copyright claim. So you could just watch it on YouTube if you want to see a pre-show match. But do you agree that, people people criticizing other writers for saying that the show's too long, that they're saying that they shouldn't be complaining? Or do you think that that it is too long and that anybody, there's both, that there's both sides of it? You see both people's points, that the guy who says you shouldn't complain because it gives your site more of a reason to go to your site. You make the sacrifice for the fans so they go to you instead of having to sit there and watch it themselves.
I see what he's saying, but it is too long. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I agree. Especially with the fact that I am working that day. I'm not taking off. I didn't take off last year, and I'm not taking off this year.
No, I work at 4:30 I gotta be up at 4:30 in the morning the following day.
Oh yeah.
It's even if what is it, sort of 5, 6? It's still gonna go late. It goes late no matter what.
Yeah, it'll probably end around midnight. But watching TakeOver, that's different. Not just because it's on Friday this year. Actually, it's tonight. I'm pretty sure, because they switched the spots with the WrestleMania with the Hall of Fame because of Ring of Honor and New Japan's show tomorrow. And they could say all they want that that's not the case, but you know that's the reason. Because you know that people were going to go to the New Japan Ring of Honor show as opposed to the TakeOver. But watching that's different because you know TakeOver is going to end at 10 o'clock. Because it usually goes 2 hours.
Yeah.
But telling somebody you watched TakeOver and not WrestleMania, it's like, you know, you sound like a, you know, you may sound like a mark, because you're watching the developmental instead of the main roster. Even though NXT takeovers are usually better than main roster pay-per-views, would you agree that there's a difference this time because it's WrestleMania and not, you know, SummerSlam or Survivor Series or something like that?
Different in the caliber of the show.
I guess just different in like the status of WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like WrestleMania is always the big.
Yeah, WrestleMania is always going to be bigger than any takeover.
Like even if it doesn't live up to expectation, like the WrestleMania name, you know, you would most people would say, why aren't you watching Mania and and you're watching TakeOver instead?
Yeah, you're watching TakeOver. No, yeah.
I mean, yes, as far as timing, I would say, yes, I'm more likely to watch TakeOver than to watch WrestleMania, but that's just because I don't have 7 hours to sit there and watch WrestleMania. Because I remember, I think it was when Roman and Taker fought, so 2 years ago, I was falling asleep at the end to be honest, I was falling asleep at near the end of that match. Which, yes, speaks to how bad the match was, but also how long the show was.
Yep. It's getting progressively worse every year.
This is according to, I mean, unless it was Kayfabe News that said it, but it's apparently the longest WWE event in history this year.
It's just not necessary.
Now, do you think it would be better if they did it where Saturday was day 1 of WrestleMania and Sunday was day 2, or do you think it's better if it would be better if they just cut it down and had one day?
No, I think it's just better if they cut it down. It's like they're trying to get everybody on the show.
Yeah. I mean, would it be better if they just had a bigger Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and just had it that way? Like,
no.
Put more people in a Battle Royal?
No, I don't think that's... No, because then to me that's just throwing people on for the sake of throwing people on.
Yeah. I mean, I understand both perspectives because you want to give people WrestleMania paydays because it's the biggest payday of the year. But at the same time, it should be like, you know, you should make it clear, okay, the pay-per-view starts here. And anybody who doesn't really care about watching the pre-show, which I do think that they say that. I think they say WrestleMania coverage starts at 5. Which then you say 2-hour pre-show, so the pay-per-view starts at 7.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but then you're also saying that every WrestleMania usually does not end at 11, it usually ends at 12. From what I remember. Either way, though, to avoid, you know, criticizing WrestleMania too much, where is your excitement level for WrestleMania this year?
Honestly, not terribly high.
Mine either. Now, is it because you feel like WWE is just, like, thrown together stuff and hasn't really planned anything out, or is it just because, like, what's the reason for the lack of excitement?
There's just no, like, we've seen Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley 7,000 times. Kofi Kingston's probably not going to win. Brock Lesnar's probably going to win. Like, it's all so predictable. And we've seen the same matches for the most part.
And that's why I don't really care, and I'm not, I mean, I know probably maybe 3 people will listen to this video and all of them will be scratching their heads wondering why I'm not watching it, but I know it's more of a Mark or a smart fan approach of, oh, it's predictable, there's nothing interesting about the show. I mean, when you could sit there and say that Becky's probably going to win, Kofi's probably going to lose. And I even talked about this yesterday in today's article on the site, that I said it 2 weeks ago. Why make Kofi jump through hoops, as many hoops as you're making him jump through, if he's not going to win? Because if you're going to do the match anyway, just do the match, let the build, give more weeks for the build, and do it that way, as opposed to making it seem like he's going to win, but not making him win. Because my perspective on it is that if Becky's going to win and Rollins is going to win, Kofi shouldn't. Because then you're going to have too many babyfaces winning, and it's going to take away from one of the other person's victories. In my opinion. It should be more special, Kofi winning. Even if you hold it off until Saudi Arabia, because I think that's the next pay-per-view. If you hold it off until Saudi Arabia, that's fine. Because at least in, number one, it gives Saudi Arabia a reason to actually be important. And it actually gives Kofi the opportunity to celebrate and be the center of attention, as opposed to being one of the many babyfaces that won. It's not that I don't think he should, it's that I think if he does, then Rollins or Becky should lose. And Becky's not going to be the one that does.
No. There's not going to be those... All 3 of them are not going to get their feel-good WrestleMania moments.
Exactly. Because also, can you really say that Daniel got his last year? I mean, Daniel got his at WrestleMania 30, he doesn't need another one. Yeah, but look what happened after it. Can you really classify... I mean, that is a WrestleMania moment, yes, fine. But the after WrestleMania, I don't know if I'd classify that as a good WrestleMania moment because of what happened after. Him actually going into WrestleMania as WWE Champion and successfully defending the title, I think that would be more of a moment because it would show how far he's come. Not to say that Kofi doesn't deserve his WrestleMania moment, it's just that, there's too many similar matches, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But I also agree that, with that being said, the more like a Baron Corbin Kurt Angle match. I know how you feel about this match, or I think I do. I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of it because you could disagree or you could agree. Baron Corbin has been getting, next to probably Drew McIntyre, has been getting the loudest boos on Raw since probably late last year, like the fall of last year. Go ahead.
No, Kurt Angle deserves better than Baron Corbin being his last. That's my problem.
Well, I think had they actually built it up and announced it sooner, because that's my problem. That's my problem with a lot of WrestleMania this year, that they waited too long to build it up. I mean, they waited too long to announce it. Like going into Royal Rumble, after the Royal Rumble and what was it, Elimination Chamber after it. You still only had 2 matches announced, or 3 matches announced for WrestleMania, and one of them was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. The other 2 were the WWE, the title match with Brock and Seth, and Becky and Ronda. That's it. Usually, at least, you can see, oh, these guys... I think most people knew that Finn and Bobby were going to go to WrestleMania, but it's just, like, not enough matches were announced early enough, and you had 2 pay-per-views in between to announce matches. Like, I think Kofi and Daniel should have been announced after Elimination Chamber. It should have been announced right after the Elimination Chamber, even if you had Kevin Owens come out and still be the one who challenged Daniel at Fastlane to not give away Daniel and Kofi before WrestleMania. It's just the fact that, I mean, yes, people might say, oh, well, this just means the New Day are breaking up. This just means that one of the New Day are costing Kofi the match. I mean, even though, I think we've talked about this, even though I would love to see that, because one of the New Day members, probably Big E, would be then the hottest heel in the company. But do they really need that?
No.
So why do it?
Because it's Vince McMahon and he does what he wants.
You're not wrong, but if you don't need another heel, you shouldn't break up a reborn faction for another heel.
Who knows? I could see it going either way.
I could too.
Not scary, but
I could too, and if it was me, I'd think about it, but I'd probably put it off. And I'd probably do it once Daniel starts cooling down as the top heel. Once Daniel starts cooling down as the top heel, maybe do it closer to when you guys are going to Fox, or maybe do it on the first Fox on SmackDown, or first SmackDown on Fox, because, I don't know, you start a big angle, and it, gets people interested in going to see what's going to happen next week, because you did a big turn, and if you do it right with the people that are booking now, Jeff Jarrett being one of them, hopefully Bruce Pritchard goes on, and I say hopefully Bruce Pritchard goes on, because if anybody knows how to book the WWE product, it's Bruce Pritchard. And anybody who can get Vince to pull back and relax and know that somebody he can trust is running the show, it's Bruce Pritchard. I mean, I'm not trying to kiss Bruce Pritchard's ass or anything, but he has the track record to prove it, considering he's worked for WWE before. And he was Vince's right-hand man next to Pat Patterson before. No, we don't know what Bruce is actually going to do. The only person we know that's on the creative team right now from the new hires is Jeff Jarrett. The other guys, as far as I know, are agents. Chris Abyss, Gregory Helms. I think Daivari got brought on as an agent. From Bruce Pritchard's mouth, he is not on the creative team, but that was about a month ago. So we don't know. My only thing is, why make changes to creative team this close to WrestleMania? Do it after WrestleMania. Because basically that's what I feel like that's the problem, that they are, trying to piece together the week before, the weeks going into WrestleMania with a different creative team that then came up with the plan. So they don't really know what to do with the build-up, and it's like, well, if Kurt Angle was going to announce his retirement, why not have him announce it the day after the Rumble? And say he's going to go on a retirement tour between now and WrestleMania. Sort of like they did with Ric Flair. And then have him retire at WrestleMania. But have it be where that Baron Corbin guy, for the 2 months between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, is the one that's trying to get Kurt Angle retired. To actually have some build and meaning, as opposed to the month or 3 weeks that they have to the match. Because it's just lazy booking, in my opinion. It's just laziness. And it's disappointing, because WWE's never been like this. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Now, how much more would you have liked it if John Cena was the one against Kurt Angle?
I mean, I don't think I would have cared if it was Cena. I guess that was the rumor. I just think, like I said, Kurt Angle, nobody cares about Baron Corbin. So, like, Kurt Angle, for all that he's done for that company, his last match should have been against, Rey Mysterio or somebody, or somebody that, if he's gonna lose, would make sense for him to lose to, like Baron Corbin's not going anywhere. Let's be real. Like, he's not going to make it. You know, he's not going to be the next Kurt Angle. So at least, you know, somebody from NXT maybe. It makes no sense.
Well, I mean, the only thing I can say is that if Seth does win and beat Brock, it would give him an easy person in Baron to beat as an early challenger in the title reign. Because it would beating Kurt Angle and retiring Kurt Angle would give Baron a lot of, oomph towards becoming a main eventer. He already has the reaction, and him facing Seth, then it would give Seth an easy person to beat early. Even though it's pretty obvious that if Seth does win, he's probably versing Brock in Saudi Arabia again. It would be weird to me, though, because would they actually let Seth beat Brock twice? Or would they try and make it a triple threat in Saudi Arabia to avoid beating Brock twice? But I guess that would be decided if Brock is leaving or not, which I kind of hope he is, because, the possibility of Brock going to SmackDown and elevating SmackDown, I don't think SmackDown needs him. Would you agree, or what's your thoughts on that?
No, I'm sure Lesnar's leaving, so I hope he's leaving. So, I don't see him going to SmackDown. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I feel like old Brock could have went to SmackDown, but this Brock wouldn't fit. Like the Brock early in his career fit on SmackDown because he could work.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to call him lazy now, but he kind of is.
He's definitely not what he used to be, no.
Yeah. I mean, maybe age got to him or whatever. But, so now I know, we did this last year with WrestleMania, we talked about WrestleMania. I'm sure it's different because we both anticipated watching WrestleMania last year, but this year, not so much. Well, first, we can talk a little bit, we probably could talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame. Are you happy with this class? Or do you care about the Hall of Fame? Or what's your thoughts on the Hall of Fame?
I normally care about the Hall of Fame, but literally, almost everybody is or half of the class are two-time inductees. So it just seems like there's people not in the Hall of Fame that should be in the Hall of Fame. So it's at the point that it's kind of like, not a joke, but it just doesn't mean so much anymore.
Now, do you think it's unnecessary that they inducted a stable and 2 tag teams and should have inducted maybe one less tag team? Instead, push the Harlem Heat back to next year and induct somebody else?
Yeah, why couldn't Jim Neidhart get in by himself? Why does he need to be in with Bret Hart?
I think it's this non-posthumous thing of at least somebody's there to accept it. I mean, yes, Natty will be there to accept it, but it's just because also, if you didn't notice, they're not doing inductees, inductors anymore, they're just doing the inductees. They're just going to announce the guy, probably like the King or somebody is going to just announce the guy. They're not having anybody come out, do a speech, and then induct him, and announce them, and have them come out, shake hands, and then get their speech. This is the first year they're actually not doing that. Why? Well, it's just to save time. Which I don't understand, considering they have their own network and don't really need to save time. But are you happy that at least they don't have a celebrity going anymore? Because I do believe this is the second year that they don't, I think this is the second year in a row that they don't have a celebrity.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even realize that. Yeah, because that's also kind of makes it less meaningful. So I guess it is a good thing that they don't have that.
I mean, to be fair, I can understand somebody like a Cyndi Lauper going into the Hall of Fame because of what she did, her
Yeah.
giving what she gave to it. But a guy like Donald Trump, I disagree with. I don't think he should have been inducted. I think that they relied too much on the publicity of getting attention for the Hall of Fame as opposed to just relying on the inductees getting publicity for the Hall of Fame. I mean, other than that, Mr. T, he deserves it. I'm drawing. Pete Rose obviously deserves it because of him actually taking bumps at WrestleMania. I'm drawing a blank on the other inductees, but Kid Rock's in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he deserves it. But point is, I agree with you. I am a little disappointed with this class. Not to say that the people that are getting inducted don't deserve it. I'm glad DX are going in. I think this is the smartest decision for them because I think that there's no way Triple H was going to go in individually due to his position in the company, even though I think him going into in individually before him and Steph take over would be smarter than waiting until after. But I think this is the only way he's going in at this point right now. I'm happy for Harlem Heat. They deserve it. Stevie Ray deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The Anvil does too. Honky Tonk Man definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I can't say the same about Brutus Beefcake. I'm disappointed that they didn't let Bam Bam go in this year. I understand that with Jim Neidhart and Chyna both being posthumously inducted, they probably didn't want to give too much to the posthumous inductees.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. I mean, I might not be a fan of Brutus Beefcake, and that's why I'm a little iffy on it. But if you want to talk about somebody who just rode the coattails of Hulk Hogan, and even to the point of falsifying autographs of Hulk Hogan and selling them like they're real, signing them himself, he doesn't. I mean, I guess he has a good relationship with Vince. Good for him, but I'm a little iffy on if he deserves to be in. But I guess he's the similar, like the gimmick, the nod and a wink to the gimmicks of the past. Like Hillbilly Jim was last year, or 2 years ago, whenever Hillbilly Jim went in. So I guess I take it back. I guess I can understand why he went in. Because he's similar to Hillbilly Jim or Coco Beware. Well, I will now give you the floor of all the card, whether it's, the pre-show, because you could probably pinpoint some of the pre-show matches, the Women's Battle Royal will probably be on the pre-show, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal might be on the pre-show. Whichever one's on the pre-show, the other one will probably be on the main card, I would guess, because they want to break it up. The Raw Tag Team title match will probably be on the pre-show. Buddy Murphy and Anthony Nese will probably be on the pre-show, even though I think that match should be on the regular show, in my opinion, because it would break things up. Before we get to this, though, I do actually want to bring something up. Are you disappointed that they're not having a multi-man match for either the Intercontinental title or the United States title like they have traditionally at WrestleMania? Like that multi-man ladder match type thing?
I don't think it's necessary.
Now, is it because of you feel like it prevents the match from getting proper build, or is it because of Money in the Bank? That it's too similar to Money in the Bank?
No, I think storyline-wise, like Finn Balor and, Bobby Lashley made sense, and...
Yeah, I agree. That's the reason why I'm kind of happy about it, too.
The United States, I mean, that was kind of just thrown together, but...
Well, for the United States, I would see it more because R-Truth could have been in it, and Andrade could have been in it too, and it could have made sense.
Yeah.
Because of Andrade's problems with Rey and R-Truth being the former champion, both of them could have been added into it to make it a fatal 4-way. Odds are both guys are going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But I guess we'll see what happens, because who knows, R-Truth could be in the Women's Battle Royal and get confused. But as for the card, match you're looking forward to least, match you're looking forward to most, and match that has your highest hopes. Like, highest hopes for that it's going to defy expectations.
So I guess looking forward to the least would be Baron Corbin for single. The most would be the main event. And I'm hoping that Kofi wins. That Kofi, I can't say it. Yeah, I hope he beats Daniel Bryan.
Well, now I'm gonna put you on the spot with it. If Kofi wins, would you be disappointed if he drops it back to Daniel in Saudi Arabia in May?
Yes, because I think that would be a waste of time.
So even just giving him the nod and saying, a short reign as champion, because
he didn't work all this time, just to have a couple-week reign as champion.
But what if they start doing if the match ends if that match is the one that ends in a dusty finish, not necessarily having the New Day cost him the title, but having the seeds be planted for a possible breakup, and adding to, if they booked it that way, would you be okay with, him not winning and the feud continuing?
I think as long as he gets his title, as long as he becomes a champion at some point, I would love it to be at WrestleMania, but I think we all know he deserves it, so I think as long as he gets his time to be champion, I'd be okay with it.
Well, because I think booked right, they could have this go until SummerSlam. Yes, by adding other people into
too much.
By adding other people into it too, and possibly keeping that card in the back of their pocket of having the New Day break up, but AJ could jump back into it. Well, also you forget, if you look at WWE's pay-per-view calendar, they don't have much in between now and SummerSlam. They have Saudi Arabia and NXT show. They have Saudi Arabia and NXT show in July, Money in the Bank, and I think that's it. They don't have much. I think they might have scrapped some of their pay-per-views. Unless they haven't announced them yet, which is unlike WWE, because usually you know what they're going to do before, the pay-per-views that they're going to do before the year starts. Yeah, because they have... Okay, no, they only have Backlash and Money in the Bank and Extreme Rules. So I guess they added the... Well, actually, that was on... I don't know. I mean, it seems like they did cut out some of them, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But my point is, I would agree with you that having Kofi win to lose it back to him, having him win to lose it back to him would defeat the purpose of having him winning within a month. He needs at least a 2-month or 3-month reign. And again, if a guy like Bruce Pritchard does, I know this only because I've watched, I've heard him say it, that if a guy like Bruce Pritchard does join the creative team, he does not like short reigns. He does not like hot potatoing the title, and I think that would benefit anybody pretty much that wins the title at WrestleMania. That if, and I think Jeff Jarrett's the same way, because they both have the old school mentality of booking. do you think that would help? Like, I'm not, this is totally like, speculation, but do you think that taking more of an old school booking style of letting the guys hold the titles for longer would help improve how poorly the WWE titles are looked at?
Yeah, because they got to a meaningless point, like the women's championship on SmackDown, like being passed around from person to person. So, yeah, that's why you wanted people to hold them on for a certain amount of time, because it makes them pointless when they go back and forth.
Yeah, but it also, at least before they made the creative changes, because you don't know how the changes are going to affect them yet, because, once again, none of these were probably ideas from the new people. Anything you're seeing on WrestleMania is probably stuff they had planned previously. Why they didn't, change the plans, I don't know, but, I would agree. I would agree completely, and I think that a new booking mentality is needed for both the IC and United States title, because it's like they don't know what they want to do with those titles. Speaking of not knowing what they want to do with the titles, I do want to ask, since you mentioned the match, I was going to ask about it anyway. The moniker for the Triple Threat main event is Winner Take All. As people have said, that means winner gets both titles. Does this, in your mind, make up for the fact that Charlotte beat Asuka if they're basically unifying the SmackDown and Raw women's titles?
I think that's pretty much what they're doing. I just think it's stupid, personally, because I don't think it's necessary to unify them.
I would agree, but I also see the point of if they're doing it because the women's tag team titles are going to be interbranded, and that could bring up the point of why the women's title, the normal singles women's title, not interbranded too.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I do agree with having individual titles, but I thought from the start that they should have just kept the titles like they had initially in the brand split before they made the two separate world titles for house show purposes. To always have a champion on a house show because they were doing separate toured house shows. But I always thought that they should have kept one world title, one women's title, two mid-card titles, one tag team titles, one set of tag team titles, and both the Intercontinental and the United States, because then that gives, since you're only going to have one world title and one tag team titles, it gives people more other championships to fight for. But the amount of titles they have is overkill, is what I'm...
No, it is. I didn't realize that they had
two tag team titles, two world titles, two mid-card titles, three women's titles. Now, do you think that the women's tag team titles were unnecessary, or do you think they serve a purpose?
No, I don't really think it was necessary, but I'm not mad about it. It gives the women more titles to go for. I just don't think it was truly necessary.
Now, do you think if they unify the singles title, that gives the women's titles, the tag team titles, more of a purpose? Because that allows the women to go for that title instead of...
I mean, I guess, but...
I don't know. It's confusing. WWE has confused us all. For me, I want to say that I'm looking forward to least, part of me wants to say Triple H versus Batista is the match that I'm looking forward to least because it's predictable, but I can't say that. Because next to Randy Orton and AJ Styles, that feud's build-up has been very good. Batista has done the best work he's done in years. I hated the promo from Triple H when he basically broke the fourth wall and said, "This is not Triple H talking today, Batista, it's Paul Levesque talking to you, Dave, and then they continued to break the fourth wall and break the fourth wall and break the fourth wall. It's like, and Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, that's the match I'm looking forward to least. Because I think Roman Reigns is going to win. Because they're making Roman Reigns seem too much like the underdog. It's not that I don't think he should. It's not that I have a problem with Roman Reigns. It's that I think Drew McIntyre needs it more. Because, number one, you need to balance the heels winning and the babyfaces winning on the show, and you can't have overkill with babyfaces winning. Number two, it would, once again, much like Baron Corbin beating Kurt Angle, it would establish a heel to face Seth if Seth does beat Brock. And you could continue to run with Roman not being 100%. And having to go back and resuscitate, recondition himself and maybe have a feud with Baron Corbin and feed Baron Corbin to Roman Reigns instead of feeding him to Seth Rollins. I'd be fine with that. Especially if this leads to a Roman versus Seth at SummerSlam. Because at this point, I don't know about you, but I kind of want to see Roman as WWE champion, as Universal Champion, because we never got to see him as Universal Champion. He won the title, then got his sickness, and, he had to vacate the title. So we've never actually seen Roman hold that title for a long time. Because he was supposed to be the champion at WrestleMania. So I kind of want to see him get a run. I do want to see Seth get a run. But I also want to see Roman get a run. What do you think about that? Or what is your opinion on that?
I think Roman, in the future, should get a run, but I don't think now. I think Seth should have his moment in the sun.
I agree. No, I agree. But yeah, I definitely am looking forward to Roman and Drew at least because I know WWE and I'm more on the idea of Roman and Drew, Roman winning, and even though I think Drew should. If I didn't want to say that match, it would definitely be the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Solely based around the fact that the SNL guys are in the match with Braun Strowman. That WWE does not know what they want to do with Braun Strowman at all, and they just stick him in a battle royal. He should have been in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal last year. He should have won it last year, not this year. He should have been doing something better this year. And they should, at this point, just accept the fact that if they're never going to put Braun as world champion, they should have done something better with him than feed him to Brock Lesnar.
I agree.
As far as highest expectations, the main event, the triple threat match with the women, highest expectation. Well, yeah, I'll say that because it's never happened. It's never happened, so you don't know what to expect with them being in that type of spot. It's happened on a paper. It happened on Hell in a Cell. And in my opinion, they didn't do very well. Charlotte and Sasha. Should they have been in a Hell in a Cell? Probably not, no. In my opinion, Charlotte and Sasha's match from Hell in a Cell a few years ago should not have happened in a Hell in a Cell. It should have been a normal... It could have been a brawl, it could have been an I Quit match, it could have been a Last Man Standing. It didn't have to be in Hell in a Cell. I think they would have worked better outside the cage instead of inside of it. Or it could have been a normal cage match, and they would have worked better. It would have worked better, in my opinion. I hated the match. It was good that it happened, but I think it would have been better if it didn't happen in Hell in a Cell. They just looked uncomfortable. But they've never been in, the women have never had the opportunity to main event on WrestleMania, so you don't know what to expect from them. Because the marquee match on WrestleMania always goes long. It always gets, in most cases, it always gets longer than it probably should, but they're going to have a lot of time to shine, and they're going to have the biggest opportunity, and I just don't know what to expect from them. I mean, I'm hoping that it's a great match. I expected it to be a great match because it's three fantastic workers, but I just don't know what to expect. And I'll just throw this out there that the only part of the build that I hated is the fact that they made Ronda seem like, oh, those two are not real fighters, but I am. So what's going to happen when you lose to the not real fighters? It's going to make her look bad, in my opinion. And they should have did it a little bit better. And not made her rely on, oh, I'm real, but they're not. I'm unbeatable. They relied on that too much, in my opinion, and they should have, pulled it back a little bit. Because I feel like it might damage Ronda's credibility. Who knows what she's going to do after Mania, but I feel like that's just my only criticism of the feud. Other than that, it was very well. The build-up was in best build-up of any WrestleMania match in recent memory. Other than that. Have you seen, what do you think, what have you thought about the build-up? Do you agree about the criticism, or?
I mean, it was a bit over the top, but I don't know. Charlotte, her interjection felt forced. The Becky and Ronda, I thought, was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also might just be that I felt like that Ronda's promo when she was like doing the breaking the fourth wall stuff was too similar to Triple H's promo, and then when Drew McIntyre did it too, it was too similar to both their promos. Which is why I think Drew McIntyre doing it in his promos took me out of that. I mean, Roman's, I think the Roman on the go home, just him coming out and saying, oh, you never talk about my family, and then, punching, like simple. That's how Roman should always be, simple and using his actions as opposed to his words, because he's always been better at that. But, like, that was good, but Drew wasn't. It was too similar, it wasn't unique. I know it's tough for all the feuds to seem different, but the big ones are supposed to seem different. And that's, I guess that's my one, it doesn't feel like WrestleMania, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, yeah, I get
that. Yeah. And, by far, the match that got the highest hopes for is AJ Styles and Randy Orton. By far. It's just AJ Styles and Randy Orton. Because I feel like that match is the match that you wanted to see, but you didn't know you wanted to see until they actually announced that it was happening.
Yeah.
When it actually puts both guys to good use. The only question is, can WWE keep this up? Because I think this is by far the best WWE has booked AJ out of the title picture since he came to WWE. Since he arrived in the company. Because, 2017? When he was feuding with Kevin Owens?
I don't remember.
Was not very good? Yeah, it was 2017 because he moved to SmackDown with the brand split in 2016. So it was probably 2017. It had to have been 2017. But yeah, that wasn't very good because, there was no reason why AJ and Kevin were going for the United States title as opposed to the WWE title. So I think that there's no doubting that this booking of AJ with Randy is a lot better than him with Shane or him with Kevin Owens. But as Now, well, for me, I will be looking at the videos after the fact, or as they're put up on WWE's account. Are you going to be watching anything from WrestleMania after WrestleMania?
Probably not.
Oh wow, I didn't realize. Well, to be fair, I'm probably not going to either, but but I might. I might. Actually, there's something that I forgot and it just popped into my head. Biggest disappointment for WrestleMania this year.
I mean, kind of the overall show.
I'm actually not surprised you said that after you saying that you're not going to watch anything after the fact. Because at least if there was something that you were... Well, would you say it's possible that you would watch something from the main event? Because of it, because of the significance of the main event?
I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Well,
I don't normally watch things afterwards.
Well, that's better than a no. But yeah, I can agree with I can agree with you on that because I might, but I am disappointed with this year's WrestleMania because it doesn't feel like they've, I'm an advocate for long-term booking, and I don't feel like there was any long-term booking to this. Yes, I understand that Roman Reigns' injury, it deterred some of the plans that were set in place for WrestleMania. But the fact that John Cena is not doing anything, and he's available, kind of puzzling to me. I mean, does he need to be there? No, he doesn't. And the fact that he hasn't been on a WWE show, I could be wrong, since last Saudi Arabia show. No, not Saudi Arabia, Australia. I could be wrong, but I think that was, earlier in the year. See, that's how long it's been that Cena's been there. Like, that's how little Cena's appearances have reflected on me that I didn't even remember he was there before the Rumble. But, my biggest disappointment is the tag team division.
Which one?
The tag team division. Both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what the SmackDown title match is, but I'm more disappointed with the Raw one that Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder just got given the title shot against the Revival.
That was a little random.
Yeah, number one, the dusty finish on Raw doesn't give anything to Aleister Black and Ricochet, and the fact that Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins have been fighting. Kurt Hawkins has lost how many matches in a row, and there's no build-up whatsoever to a WrestleMania match that could see him win the Raw Tag Team titles. And now with the rumor of the Revival possibly getting broken up, if I had to guess, during the Superstar Shakeup, why bother? WWE doesn't like tag teams. That's why. WWE doesn't like tag teams. They realized, we're stupid. Zack Ryder's healthy, Kurt Hawkins is here doing nothing, let's put them back together. You finally do something that makes sense for a tag team division, and then you're going to break up one of the best tag teams on your roster? Why would they stay? Why should they stay? Before we get to the final thoughts on WrestleMania, I just wanted to get your thoughts on where are you on AEW? Or do you even have expectations for that yet? Or, have you been paying attention? Are they on your, do they have your attention?
Where am I on what? Sorry.
AEW.
I mean, I've been kind of half paying attention to them. Nothing against them, I just don't really.
You're just a workaholic.
I don't follow much other than WWE.
You're just a workaholic and don't do much outside of work.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I should be happy then that you took the time to that you made time to spend with me.
I always have time to talk about wrestling.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to have expectations about a company that hasn't run a show yet, and I think that's where everybody's mind is going to go next to May 25th, which is Double or Nothing in Las Vegas after this. Because I don't think anybody who actually knows anything is going to go to the Saudi Arabia show, because most people don't care about the Saudi Arabia show. And at least for me, I'm going to go jump right to May 25th and see what's going to happen in Vegas for All Elite Wrestling, as opposed to that. But I will also just... the next show for AEW, which they're actually planning out, or starting to plan out according to their YouTube series, is in July, a fundraiser to benefit victims of gun violence, specifically the one from the gaming event last year. Do you think that more companies should do stuff like that, or like promote awareness, or do you think like a company like WWE can't do something like that because of how in the public eye they are?
I don't really know.
Well, better question then is, did you see John Oliver's take on WWE?
I did not. I missed it.
I haven't either, and I'll say the reason. It's because typically when a person in Hollywood talks about WWE, it's not very flattering.
No, it's not. Usually, don't know what they're talking about. So I heard about it and I just avoided it.
But with the fact that Jim Cornette praised it, saying it was the most accurate account of somebody that's not in the business in the last 40 years, I'm going to watch it, because if it's Jim Cornette approved, it has to be good and it has to be positive about wrestling, because Jim Cornette would be the first person to bury it, because Corny isn't exactly the hardest person to get angry. Sorry, Vince Russo. But it's also just making the time to actually sit down and watch it, because when you're, a little skeptical about people in Hollywood, even though, no, if the guy's not going to talk good about something, like if he's going to talk like Nancy Grace about it, then why bother? But if he actually did, make some sense and actually get good enough to be praised by people who are very critical of non-wrestling personalities, I think it's something maybe worth watching. But it's, finding the time to sit down and watch it.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Oh, but the segment, I think, is only like 10 minutes, so, from what I remember. But the last thought is, as far as WrestleMania, all the time, after WrestleMania, all the talk is how they're going to keep the viewers, I'm not going to ask the big push, because I know the answer. I know the answer if I said, who do you want to get the biggest push after WrestleMania? I know it's going to be Finn Balor, because I know you. Am I wrong?
No.
Thank you. And you wouldn't be wrong assuming that my choice would be Finn Balor too, but I would also like to say Buddy Murphy, because I think Buddy Murphy deserves it, or Mustafa Ali. Sorry, Ali. He's not Mustafa anymore. But what I was going to say was, if you had to pick somebody from NXT to come up, who would you pick to come up? Or do you think that they should hold off on the NXT arrivals until they figure out what the fuck's going on with Tommaso and Johnny Gargano?
Well, I was going to say with him out, I mean, if Gargano doesn't win the title, I would say Gargano. I think he's the only other... I think they're going to hold off on Velveteen Dream for a while. I think they should hold off on Velveteen Dream for a while.
I agree, especially with him being North American champion. now. But I do agree with Johnny Gargano, and there was even rumors of him moving to 205 Live, which the only way I think he should is if they're pulling somebody out of 205 Live and giving them a push. Which, to be fair, they pulled Mustafa out of 205 Live and put him on SmackDown. Yeah, but that benefited him. You know, when you have random guys if you have random guys keep showing up on 205 Live, which is what they should do, and when a guy gets to a certain point, move him to SmackDown and start pushing him, which is what they should have did with Pac, and I think what Pac wanted, but once it became clear that it was never going to happen, that's why he left, and you can't really blame him for that. But would you agree with that? That, you know, putting Gargano on 205 Live would not be bad if you move somebody off 205 Live and give them a push? Because it would also give them a fresh talent on Raw or SmackDown?
Yeah, I think that would be...
Probably SmackDown, because
Yeah, probably SmackDown.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if 205 Live's a brand, in my opinion, it should be a part of the Superstar Shakeup.
No, you're right.
Where people can move from Raw to SmackDown to 205 Live. And if I had to pick, I actually did pick. But I would also say improved booking, and I'm more interested in seeing where the company goes under a new direction creatively with guys like Jeff Jarrett, Bruce Pritchard, and if any of the other new agents join the creative team. Because the one thing that I feel like they lost out on is they were always best when they mixed non-wrestling people with wrestling people on the creative team, as opposed to just having wrestling guys or just having non-creative guys or just having creative guys. Because you had a guy like Freddie Prinze Jr. on the creative team during the Ruthless Aggression era with a guy like Bruce Pritchard. Or Russo and Cornette during the Attitude Era. Oh, Russo knew No, Russo didn't know wrestling. Russo didn't know shit. Russo knew entertainment. Russo knew what he saw on Jerry Springer. He didn't know wrestling. He knew wrestling from what he saw watching. He didn't know... He wasn't Cornette. He wasn't Jim Ross. He wasn't, guys like that. He was his own guy, which makes him more similar to Freddie Prinze Jr. than Jim Cornette. Well, would a change in creative possibly get you more interested in watching, or at least paying a little bit more attention? Or, like if you had to pick something as a post-WrestleMania reset, would that be what you pick, or?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, everything's just the same ridiculous thing that it's been for the past 2 years, so I guess that's creative.
I mean, I think a creative reset would help. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think something is coming with the fact that they do have a bunch of new people. And from what Bruce Pritchard said once again a month ago, some of them don't have an official position yet. But once again, that was a month ago, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. I know that's tough for wrestling fans to do, but we'll have to wait and see. But now, one thing that I do have to say before we go, even though there's only 3 people, only probably 3 to 5 people will watch this, it doesn't really matter to me, because I had fun, but it's also my way of telling you, I decided to put the magazine on hold. And, I mean, if you still want to write the article, I'll just post it on the site, or you can just post it on the site, as opposed to putting it in the magazine. Because not enough people were interested in writing for it, and with the fact that we did one, I never was trying to push people to get the article out. It had to be where they were interested in doing it and willing to do it. I mean, if you still want to do it, you can still do it and just post it on the site.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
That's it's no big deal. Because, I mean, I'm there. And I'm sure you understand that, that if it was going to happen, it would have happened. But, right now it's when I wanted to release it. And, half the people that said they were going to do it backed out. So it, it was a little disappointing. But, once I found out that I had to make $25 off the magazine to make any money from it, the satisfaction of doing the magazine only goes so far. Not to say I wouldn't want to do it again if we didn't make money off of it. It's just the fact that, you're doing it for such a good cause that you would think that that would make at least somebody buy it. But it's also the fact that it's a magazine and people may not be as interested in magazines as they once were. But either way, the magazine's off the table for the foreseeable future. But to those that listening, the book is done, and the bibliography or the sources and stuff like that is what's left. I will try and have a foreword to the book. I've been talking to James Beard to write the foreword to the book. But again, it's him finding the time to actually do it. I would not be mad at him if he can't. Either way, the book's getting published, with or without it. Maybe he'll just do a foreword in the next book. But either way, the book is done. There will be a teaser at the end of it. And I just, curious to ask, is there any, even just as a nostalgia, does WCW, things about WCW catch your attention?
Me personally, no, because I caught on to wrestling a little later. After WCW kind of went out of... Well, no, I watched wrestling earlier, but I was like 10 when WCW went out of business, so I didn't watch too much of it.
Oh, I've always been I was there. Well, number one, if you were 10, I was probably like 6. But sorry. Well, actually no, if you were 10, I was like 8. Because you're only 2 years older than me. Oh, well, then I take it back. I didn't, because the age difference is not as much. But we were always the ones that, would switch back and forth between WCW and WWE. But, there is a nostalgia act out there where people do miss WCW, and, that's one of that's what I'm counting on, hopefully more people are interested in books than magazines.
Yeah.
Because I, have, and I will make I'll make it clear now, yes, I do still anticipate donating some of the money, at least some of the money that I make from the book, to a charity, because I wasn't able to do it with the magazine. I'll do it with the book. And that's not just to say it to you to try and get, brownie points with you. I'm not, I probably should stop recording, but it's also to anybody watching, the book's not out. There will be a teaser at the end of the video, as I said, and once the book does come out, I will link in most of the videos upcoming to the book. For the book, there will be a link on the website, etc., etc. It just depends on how long CreateSpace takes to make the book, which I once again thank Yahoo for allowing free cheap publishing for creators. It's like it's like YouTube. Giving us an outlet and giving us access to stuff that most people probably would not have access to. Makes it fun. But to stop myself from continuing to drone on, at this point in the video, it's where we say goodbye and say, if you want to leave a comment on anything we talked about, WrestleMania related, post WrestleMania related, book related, WCW related, feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. And before we go, just 2 notes of, don't forget to ding dong the notification bell. And as always, thank you, Sam, for joining me for another monthly discussion.
Yes, thank you for having me again.